Can you imagine discovering that your favorite team was secretly inches away from a franchise-altering trade that would have completely transformed their identity overnight? The Montreal Canadiens came heart-stoppingly close to executing a blockbuster deal that would have sent shockwaves through the hockey universe, reshaping both their defensive foundation and offensive ceiling in one dramatic swoop. This isn't speculation or wishful thinking. This is insider intelligence that reveals just how aggressive Kent Hughes has become in his pursuit of accelerating Montreal's championship timeline. The revelation emerged during Marco Normandin's explosive appearance on the Poolcast alongside Pascal Cameron, where he dropped a bombshell that has Canadiens faithful reeling with both excitement and relief. While fans were celebrating the Logan Mailloux-for-Zachary Bolduc exchange, that seemingly straightforward swap was merely camouflage for much more ambitious machinations happening behind closed doors. The real target was Jordan Kyrou, the St. Louis Blues electric forward whose combination of blazing speed and offensive wizardry represents exactly what Montreal desperately needs. But here's where this story transforms from dream scenario to nail-biting reality. The asking price was Kaiden Guhle. Yes, that Kaiden Guhle, the 22-year-old defensive cornerstone who has quietly evolved into one of Martin St. Louis's most trusted blueliners, shouldering enormous responsibilities while displaying the kind of steady reliability that championship teams are built upon. Let that revelation marinate for a moment. The Blues weren't interested in prospects or draft picks. They wanted Montreal's most promising young defenseman, a player who represents both immediate impact and long-term foundation. This wasn't a typical rental discussion or depth trade negotiation. This was franchise-altering territory where one decision could define the next decade of Canadiens hockey. Jordan Kyrou isn't merely another skilled forward. He's a legitimate game-changer entering his absolute prime at 26 years old. We're examining a player who has already demonstrated 75-point capability, possesses the kind of explosive speed that can transform defensive zone face-offs into instant scoring opportunities, and displays the hockey intelligence to manufacture offense from seemingly hopeless situations. For Montreal's perpetual search for that elusive second-line center who can complement Nick Suzuki while providing the offensive depth that separates contenders from pretenders, Kyrou represents the perfect solution. His contract situation makes this scenario even more tantalizing. He's not a rental player who disappears after April. Kyrou offers term, stability, and proven production that could immediately accelerate Montreal's competitive timeline. The Blues forward has demonstrated consistent point production, playoff experience, and the versatility to excel both at center and wing, depending on tactical requirements. However, Kaiden Guhle represents something equally precious in today's NHL landscape, a young, cost-controlled defenseman who has already proven capable of handling top-four responsibilities against elite competition. In an era where quality defensemen command astronomical salaries and require years of patient development, Guhle embodies that rare commodity every successful franchise covets. His injury history cannot be ignored. That's an undeniable concern that adds complexity to any evaluation. But when healthy, Guhle brings precisely what championship-caliber teams require: shutdown defensive ability, surprising offensive instincts, and the kind of steady presence that allows forwards to take calculated risks knowing they have reliable coverage supporting them. Trading Guhle for Kyrou would have represented hockey's equivalent of solving one puzzle while simultaneously creating another. Montreal would have gained immediate offensive firepower, but potentially compromised their defensive depth just as veterans like Mike Matheson and David Savard continue aging. With Lane Hutson, David Reinbacher, and other prospects still developing, Guhle provides crucial continuity and proven reliability for years ahead. This near miss reveals fascinating glimpses into Kent Hughes' organizational philosophy and decision-making process. The fact that discussions progressed to this serious level demonstrates that Montreal's front office operates more aggressively in trade negotiations than many observers realized. They're not content with passive roster construction, waiting patiently for prospects to mature naturally. Instead, Hughes actively explores opportunities to accelerate competitive timelines through bold acquisitions. Yet his ultimate decision to walk away demonstrates equally sophisticated strategic thinking. Recognizing that sustainable success requires careful balance between present needs and future sustainability. The Blues, from their perspective, were demanding exactly what Kyrou's talent level justifies. A player of his offensive capability doesn't become available without significant compensation, and St. Louis correctly identified Guhle as the type of young, proven commodity that would make such a transaction worthwhile from their rebuilding standpoint. This revelation raises provocative questions about the Canadiens' contemporary trajectory. If management was genuinely willing to consider trading Guhle for the right offensive addition, what does that indicate about their confidence in their defensive prospect pipeline? Are players like Hudson, Reinbacher, and others progressing quickly enough to assume expanded responsibilities if established contributors were relocated? More significantly, it suggests that Hughes isn't satisfied with methodical, patience-driven roster construction. He's actively seeking opportunities to make meaningful competitive leaps, even when it requires difficult decisions regarding popular players with established roles. The Kyrou discussions also illuminate Montreal's persistent center depth concerns. While Nick Suzuki continues his excellent development and Kirby Dach shows promising flashes when healthy, the organization still lacks that reliable second-line pivot who can drive offense consistently while taking pressure off primary contributors. What makes this story compelling isn't merely what almost occurred, it's what it reveals about organizational philosophy and competitive urgency. The Canadiens have clearly entered a different phase of their reconstruction process, one where they're willing to consider aggressive moves to compress development timelines. They're no longer content with asset accumulation, hoping for eventual success. Yet, they're simultaneously demonstrating the kind of disciplined evaluation that distinguishes successful rebuilds from disastrous ones. Recognizing that Kyrou, despite his obvious talents, wasn't worth sacrificing a foundational defensive piece shows organizational maturity and long-term strategic thinking. This calculated approach suggests positive things about Montreal's future direction. They remain active in trade discussions, aggressive in pursuing meaningful upgrades, but unwilling to make short-sighted deals that could create lasting regret. As this season progresses, expect continued exploration of significant roster moves. The willingness to discuss someone of Guhle's importance suggests that very few players are completely untouchable aside from core pieces like Suzuki and select others. For Guhle himself, this near trade should provide enormous validation regarding his league-wide value and perception. When contending organizations specifically request you in trade negotiations, it represents clear recognition of your current importance and future potential. The Jordan Kyrou saga offers a fascinating window into NHL trade negotiations' high-stakes complexity. It demonstrates that every roster construction decision involves difficult choices, opportunity costs, and delicate balance between immediate needs and sustainable success. Would Montreal be more competitive today with Kyrou instead of Guhle? That question will fuel passionate debates in sports bars throughout Quebec for months ahead. What remains clear is that Kent Hughes made a decision prioritizing long-term championship potential over short-term offensive excitement. Perhaps that's exactly the kind of patient, strategic thinking this storied franchise requires as they navigate their path back to Stanley Cup contention. The foundation they're building might take slightly longer to complete, but it could prove far more durable when the pressure reaches its peak. What's your verdict on Hughes' decision? Should the Canadiens have pulled the trigger on landing a dynamic offensive catalyst like Kyrou, or was preserving Guhle the wise long-term choice? Jump into the comments and let me know how you would have handled this impossible decision. And if these kind of behind-the-scenes trade revelations fascinate you as much as they do me, hit that like button, and let's keep exploring the moves that shape our beloved team's destiny.